first lesson is from the book of Isaiah, the 2nd chapter. The word that Isaiah, son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In the days to come, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be raised above the hills. All the nations shall stream to it. Many people shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth instruction, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between the nations, and shall arbitrate for many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
The psalm today is Psalm 122. I was glad when they said to me, Let us go to the house of the Lord. Our feet are standing within your gates, O Jerusalem. Jerusalem, built as a city that is bound firmly together. Two of the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, as was decreed for Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord. For there the thrones for judgment were set up, the thrones of the house of David. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper who love you. Peace be within your walls and security within your towers. For the sake of my relatives and friends, I will say, Peace be within you. For the sake of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek your good. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Jesus said, But about that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. For as the days of Noah were, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark. And then they knew nothing until the flood came and swept them all away. So too will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two will be in the field, one will be taken and one will be left. Two women will be grinding meal together, one will be taken and one will be left. Keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. You may be seated. Well, this Sunday's gospel reading is all about time, but about the hour and the day, Jesus says, no one knows. Stay awake, Jesus says, you must be ready, he goes on to say. God can come at any moment. And so we have just made our way through the Thanksgiving holiday with all of the baking and the cleaning and the hospitality. And And maybe if some of you were traveling this weekend, you had your bags to pack and then to unpack as you returned home. And now we're headlong into the season of Advent, where we encourage everyone to slow down and to wait together. It is about knowing the time, knowing what our lives will be like in the next few weeks, knowing full well that we'll be running around, that we'll be buying presents and baking and shopping for gifts and hitting up the holiday sites, not only on the internet, but all of the holiday sites and lights that are around us. And we'll be attending the holiday services and maybe deciding which ones that we have time for and which ones we don't have time for. Because it's all about time. It's all about our time. I have the awake part, I think. I mean, my eyes are open, and most of your eyes are open now as well. But I think what I struggle with is the ready part. The ready thing that Jesus talks about this morning is what I have difficulty with. Jesus says you must be ready. And so that's what I need some help with. Because if God can come at any moment, well, there's another setting at the table that I have to plan for at the Christmas table. And maybe we'll just stick God next to Uncle Ed or Aunt Hazel, right? Because Lord knows no one else wants to sit next to them. So we'll let the coming Lord sit next to them at the Christmas table. And I don't have an Uncle Ed or Aunt Hazel, but you were supposed to put your own aunt's name in there and your own uncle name in there. We need help, I think, with the getting ready part of the gospel lesson for this morning. How do we get ready? I mean, we know how to get ready for work. We know how to get ready for church. We know how to get ready when company is coming to our homes. We know how to get ready for dinner. We know how to get ready, but how about getting ready for the coming of the Lord? How in the world does one go about that? And I think these mini apocalypse readings that dot the beginning of our landscape of Advent season are really a gift to us, because they make us pause for a second while we are going about our days. They make us pause and think about our ordinary days. Jesus talks about Noah in the gospel lesson for this morning. So, like the people in Noah's day, leading lives that were very ordinary, we too, I think, are swept up and carried away by all that must be attended to in these days and in this time. And all of a sudden, splash, right? The flood comes. And for Noah's neighbors, that was not exactly good news for them. In fact, that was bad news for them. But for those of us on the other side of the rainbow, the flash we get is really good news. It is a flood of grace, in fact. Swept away in a flood of grace. Like a close-to-sleeping baby that is held over the baptismal font, like last Sunday for those of you who were here. McKenna Harrigan and Blake in Ireland, who was baptized on Saturday. I mean, they were just dozing off to sleep, and then all of a sudden that splash of water on the baby's forehead just kind of startled them awake. I think that's what Jesus is talking about here. To be aware of the splash of water on our foreheads that bring us into the endless love of God. So maybe that is what this season of Advent is all about. And people read these texts, apocalyptic texts, and they think they're about some sort of rapture moment when people are taken away. But actually, a close reading will reveal that Jesus is encouraging the hearer to lean into time. To not try to escape time, but to lean into it. To lean into this moment. To lean into each moment. For it could be the one moment of grace that you need. That Christ moment that you need. Don't escape it. Don't fight it. But lean into it and recognize when that moment of grace appears in your life. Just like all the moments of grace that have appeared in my family's life and in my life this past week, through all of your expressions of care and love and grace. This is what Jesus is saying, is to lean into those moments. Recognize those moments of grace, those Christ moments that the good Lord provides for us. Jesus tells us to be swept up like Noah was swept up in that moment of grace. Advent days are a splash of grace moments, because no amount of a preacher yelling at you to slow down is going to make you do it. It's not going to make you do it. And you don't know the day or the hour when you'll need that little bit of grace that baked, fresh Christmas cookie provides for you. Or that tree that is sparkling with lights gives you. You won't know that moment of grace that thoughtful Christmas card will express for you. So by God, don't pretend to rush through the holidays without knowing that every moment of the holidays is a holy moment. Don't pretend this rush of the holidays is anything but holiness, because it is when we see it that way, it becomes that way. Advent gives us the gift of time, holy time, to decorate our houses, to warm our houses, to prepare our hearts, to buy a few presents with deep love and to carefully wrap them, and imagine a world where trees grow inside. And cookie jars refill themselves endlessly. And relatives come invited to a meal that seems to go on and on into the night. So be swept up in the grace of these days, of these holy times, of the holidays. Don't fight the current. Flow with the current as Jesus has us be reminded of Noah. Flow with those splashes of grace that are coming into your lives. Let every moment of these days shine like the glorious gift that it is. And notice that I said let it, not make it. Let it, not make it, because if there's something I've learned from being swept up by grace over and over again in my life, is that when I try to make something happen, I'm actually fighting it. I'm actually fighting the current. So just let Advent and this time happen. No need to be ready, because we're never really ready. And I think really only delusional if we think we are to be ready for the coming of Christ. So instead of being delusional this holiday season, we need to be splashed in the grace of God these days, to flow with it, to be swept up in it. and just see if Christ doesn't show up again. Because He's got the time. He's always had the time for you and for me. This Christ that is so near, and this Christ child that is ever so dear.